we would like to offer our deepest congratulations and gratitude to Professor Probal Chaudhuri, because the session was unwantedly delayed, but he cooperated with us. And now we request him to kindly address the audience.
I think you had a long day by now, and probably you are overloaded with a lot of ideas. Some of these ideas have been repeated in different forms. So what I'm going to talk is going to be somewhat different and linked to the earlier things in a very fundamental way, but it is going to be somewhat different, okay? This word, artificial intelligence, which is, as I was told that this conference has theme AI and ML, so I am a person with statistics background, so I sort of have some connection with both the things, but I am not really a hardcore AI or ML person. So to me, when these AI and or ML problems are presented, or when I look at them from a somewhat different perspective. It's like, think about natural intelligence and brain, okay? When a doctor looks at intelligence, for a doctor or clinician or a medical scientist, is understanding the brain, okay? Similarly, by now, if you look at the whole body of artificial intelligence and ML tools, it's like an artificial brain now, okay? And so if you want to understand it, it's like understanding an artificial brain in some sense, okay? Now, how does one do that? Okay. One fundamental question that all physicists bother about is how to hear the echo of the Big Bang, right? How this universe was originated. You ask a biologist, their fundamental problem is to trace the origin of life. Okay? So when you hear these terms, this is a black box. Why it is a black box? Because we don't understand it. Now, when these artificial intelligence tools originally started, they were not called with that name. They were called with a very different names. And they started about nearly 100 years ago now, I would say. So the start was like this. In some sense, this is the first paper in statistical machine learning, in my opinion. It was a paper by a biologist named Ronald Fisher. Many of you probably know his name. And the title of the paper was The Use of Multiple Measurements in Taxonomic Problems. And what Fisher was interested in? Fisher was interested in a very simple problem that we all can understand very easily. So he had 3 different varieties of this flower, Irish. So even today, when we teach our undergraduates, this is like a benchmark data, okay? And we teach with this example, okay? So Fisher was interested in classifying a flower into one of these 3 categories or 3 species based on certain measurements. He was trying to develop, in some sense, an automated tool that will take as input these measurements and then classify it into these categories. So you can think of it as a machine learning problem. Once this is converted into a code and implemented inside a computer, Fisher was not thinking quite like that, but what Fisher was doing boils down to this, okay? So Fisher was interested in some sense, a rule that will help solving this classification problem, which botanists could do based on the domain knowledge and the expertise. But if we can have an automated tool, even somebody without that domain knowledge or expertise can do that, or it may supplement the person with the expertise.
Any questions for Professor Chaudhuri?
Someone starts from the scratch, like right from Fisher's level, to understand up to the level of what is...
I do it myself, because I often teach these discriminant analysis or classification courses. It's a half a semester course, okay? And those basic tools, unfortunately, those we don't teach the students these days. That's where the problem lies, okay? What they are learning these days is they are getting some coded version of these classifiers. and they are working on some data analytic project to implement that. That's not the way to learn. Okay? If you really want to learn, you need to, it's like the difference between a pharmacist and a doctor. The doctor has learned the physiology, the doctor has learned the anatomy, the pharmacist hasn't learned that. The pharmacist only knows that, okay, the doctor prescribed these things several times, I will try that.
I was reading a book called Courage to be Disliked. And
What?
Courage to be Disliked.
Correct.
It's a very interesting book. It talks about etiology and teleology. Etiology is a causality part, which is a Freudian psychology. And the teleology is Adlerian psychology, very, very contemporary, completely different outlook. It's a very interesting book. In fact, Adler is saying, I don't care about the past. I don't need to know the cause. I need to have some purpose to go to the future. So maybe the students are actually have a purpose to go to the future. Thank you very much.
Okay.
We need to understand the basics, to be able to really develop a problem. Otherwise, if we get stuck with a problem, we just get stuck. We don't know how to get out of it. Right? But then it takes a teacher like Probalda to get us there. Thank you, Probalda.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. And now we will move on to the felicitation. And a memento from us.